this evening I want to give you some instructions regarding this job, this task of training and fostering, developing mental health. You have to know how to think, use your mind wisely, do things correctly, your daily life. What this is about is improving oneself, increasing the beauty of the mind and bringing the mind to a point of oneness. This is to do with being aware. We sit down and we watch the mind. Watch the mind, or you could say study yourselves, abandoning concerns regarding our state and what's around us, putting down all the concerns in life. Don't worry. Just thinking, right now, right here. Just be right here. Right now, we don't have anything. Just imagine you don't own anything, you don't have anything. There's just a body doing its job. The organs are functioning. So bring up mindfulness with regard to yourself. This is training in what we call Samadhi Bhavana, developing Samadhi or developing meditation. And really what we're doing is changing ourselves. It's just like everything in the world. We always have to somehow change things for the better. If your clothes are dirty, you have to wash them to eliminate the stains and the dirt and be able to function properly in life. So this training in one-pointedness, this is the job of cleaning up the mind. It eliminates and avoids worrying and thinking. And you turn your mind to the real job that we have to do as manusas, or high-minded beings. This is what's called buddhanusati, recollection of the Buddha, or recollection of wholesome qualities. So sit your body erect and establish mindfulness. You can put your right leg on your left, your right hand on your left hand, or whatever posture is comfortable. But the importance is mindfulness in the present moment. Drop your gaze a little bit in front of you, maybe let your gaze fall a couple of meters ahead, or close your eyes. Be the one who knows. This training goes not without difficulties. Firstly, because at first we're not used to it. It's a whole new thing to be doing. It's strange. It's not normal. So it feels somehow uncomfortable. But that's just one aspect of any process. Any kind of adaptation or change always has to go against the stream of the myth. So be mindful of the body just doing its job. The lungs are doing their job inside, but they're dependent on doing it, working with the air outside, and coming together is what we call in and out breathing. So focus on this in and out breathing. This is the tool we're going to use. Keep the breath in mind. See if you can stay right here. At first people aren't used to it and they get confused and worried and start thinking about this and that, proliferating. It's what we call sanya aramana, thoughts based on perceptions and memories, all kinds of thoughts proliferate into the mind. Try to eliminate these, because these thoughts are just making a mess and blocking or obscuring the true nature of the mind. Don't worry about how long you should sit. Just do it a little bit at a time. Just like a baby learning to walk. It takes one step, and if it can more or less stand up, it takes another one. But then maybe it starts wobbling, so its parents hold the little baby and then see if it can take another step, and they see it can, then the parents let go again. So it's the same with us. Take the in and out breathing as your object, and just see how it goes. This leads to what we call a clean or pure, a balanced, a normal state of mind. Then you have the necessary basis or foundation for the change or the transformation. The mind is clean, the heart is bright. You feel good and happy inside, just watching the in and the out breath. On the in breath, you can use the mantra Put. Put, like Buddha, means everything that's wholesome. It means awake. And on the out breath, To. Put, To. Breathing in, Put. Breathing out, To. Awakening. Watching the in and out breath using the mantra awake. Put, To. If you can stay in this present moment, then you'll have the necessary basis and a firm foundation. You'll feel a feeling of freedom. So this is what is called Samadhi Bhavana, developing Samadhi or meditation. And it brings up qualities inside oneself. One is peaceful. Don't do too much at first, just 10, maybe 20 minutes. But when you feel you're better at it, then increase, little by little. Do some meditation before you go to sleep or in the morning. You'll see the difference. You'll have more and more self-awareness. Maybe you increase to half an hour. And then when you can sit for half an hour with the mind, with the breath, after that, study the outside world or the external path. You look at your body. What can you see? You see hair on the head, hair on the body, nails, teeth and skin. This is the external body that we see. And why we actually just contemplate the body and just look at the body and just observe it, just as it is in order not to fall under the sway or under the power of what we call the world, or worldly dhammas, loka dhammas. Because we are social animals, we live in society, we live in the world, communities, the world is our environment all around us. We have to be very, very careful. And then when you're ready, go to bed. Going to sleep like this is very beneficial. Sleep is relaxation. It's important to sleep properly for the nervous system. So this is how you have to train yourselves. And when you do this more and more, you'll see the results. Everything all around us is changing. And as you meditate, you'll just see this more and more as a truth. So what we're doing, this is like giving yourself supplements, supplementing your strength. You're taking care of yourself, or treating yourself because you're a little bit sick, you're not very well. You're making yourself very well, bringing yourself into balance. Balanced feeling will arise. If the world has only dirt, then it's very problematic. There has to be clean parts as well. If there's only darkness, we can't live. We need light. So this is how to begin training. So carrying on from talking about the importance of training the mind and the body. Doing this job or this task is like going on a journey. And any journey is made up of different factors, but the important starting factor is to be determined, to go on your journey and have a firm mind, because traveling always has its obstacles, beginning with simply being unfamiliar with a new place. So you have to have strength, which comes from this determination of mind. There's an old saying, which roughly, very poetic, but roughly translates as traveling in samsara, there's never any end in sight. Not like the way the monks or the spiritual ones travel, walking the path of Dhamma Vinaya with the arahant state as their goal. So practice is our job, and one very important part of that, of Dhamma practice, is this aspect of, you could call it supporting or nourishing or providing the necessary suitable foundations. You have to look after ourselves, basically. We have this body, which we call bound up, made up of the 4 great elements. And so we have to understand and learn how to get our body into a balanced state, to look after ourselves, so that it doesn't cause us agitation or concern. And the Buddha was very, very practical and gave many, many guidelines or teachings with regard to the body. If a simile for the spiritual journey, you may have heard, is crossing the oceans to cross the floods. The body is like the boat. It has some power, sampan, to row or to get yourself to sail across the oceans. So your boat has to be very, very strong and and not at all leaking. So health is very important first, as a starting point in practice. You have to have a healthy immune system. Buddha taught us to look after ourselves just like we would maintain this building. So we have to always try and think, what's the best thing for Dhamma practice? And this is just the body is just one aspect of the external material world. So you could say that one aspect of Dhamma is knowing how to look after yourself, or even nursing, taking care. So the body has all its benefits, but then you have to know how to avoid using the body in a way which is dangerous or will cause you harm. You have to know what we call time and place. With regard to everything, starting with eating and drinking, you have to understand the environment around ourselves. Another thing is, for example, you have to understand that as human beings living in the world, there's times when it's dark and there's times when it's light. It simply comes from the earth turning round, revolving, spinning. And for us, the dark period, the night time, is the time when it's appropriate for us to sleep. And we take our rest by putting down our burdens, resting, so that we can feel balanced. But if we get stimulated by light, for example, then you wake up and the nervous system gets stimulated and wakes up. So we have to learn how to sleep at the right time when it's dark, go to sleep, and wake up when it gets light. Just very simple, basic things. But we have to find the middle way as well. Too much sleep is also not good either. Food is the same. Don't eat too much. And having eaten, make sure you move around, digest, do exercise. If you do this, you'll be healthy. Otherwise, you build up weight, leads to being unhealthy. So the Buddha taught us all his teachings are about how to take care of ourselves, and we have to know how to. This is part of Dhamma practice. You're learning how to be a refuge unto yourself. Otherwise, you'll constantly be depending on other people, or you'll be a burden to other people, and then you incur what we call a debt of gratitude to others. And always being in debt is not fun. There's no end in sight to that. Just like the saying about samsara, why traveling in samsara, there's no end in sight. It's the same if you're constantly a burden to other people. In these days, the world is so exciting and stimulating. There's just so much around us, unlike the old days when everything was a little bit much more dull. These days you open your eyes and you see amazing things. There's sounds everywhere, the smells are very, very stimulating. The tastes, the variety and the things to touch, as well as the way that stimulates all of our mind. And what that means is the truth of nature is obscure. We can't see it so clearly because there's so much stimulation all around us. And we fall under the sway. We get lost, infatuated and intoxicated by what we call worldly dhammas, the loka dhammas. And these are the things which really spin the world round and round. And the world means our lives. So for example, you get praise and then you think, I'm better than other people. You look down on other people. It gives rise to prejudice or bias. You think, I'm smarter than them. And if that happens, the Dhamma can't grow in our hearts. Because actually, the true nature of Dhamma is that we're all the same. It's just externally we are different, we look different. Language is a good example. Externally you might think we all speak different languages or there are different accents. But actually it's just all communication, and what's happening is we're all experiencing some happiness and some unhappiness in the mind. So in this journey of life, these loka dhammas have to be understood because it's just so diverse. There's just so much happening. We tend to look up to and want to emulate and praise, hold up people in power or people who are maybe wealthy or the leaders of society, and we think, wow, they must be really happy because they're so powerful. But it's not true. There's no freedom there. There's an old story about a king who was he thought he'd be very clever and delegate all the duties and all the responsibilities in the kingdom to his ministers and to his officials. So he gave everybody a job and told them exactly what to do and thought, great, now I've delegated this great responsibility that I have of running the kingdom to all these different officials. But the minute he thought about any of them, he just saw their faults or their limitations and thought, he can't really do it as well as I could. He's got this problem there. He's not that good. And so he ended up being just as concerned as if he was shouldering the whole burden himself. So he finally realized, as the leader, even if I delegate it to other people, ultimately I still end up suffering over it myself. It's an old sort of legend about not thinking it's all great at the time. So we're living here in the world, but we have to really understand the world. In our Dhamma teachings, one of the ways the Buddhas taught us to understand is using the Pali Ajatta Bahita. Ajatta means internally, Bahita means externally. Understand that internal and external are very much bound up with each other, like night and day, or positive and negative. They're actually synonyms for one another. They're like a mirror. So think like this: wherever there's darkness, there must be light. So in the same way, wherever there's suffering in our hearts, there must be a way to eliminate that suffering. There must be happiness too. So how do we find it? The Buddha said, truth is everywhere in nature. Dhamma means nature. And we have to have faith, if you like, or understand that all these feelings of dukkha, anytime we feel any kind of suffering or discomfort, only arises because we haven't got the right way or the right method, or we're not looking at things in the right way. So take for example fire. You could look at fire or electricity and say it's very hot, it's very dangerous, and you think that's a bad thing. But if you're clever and you look at it in the right way and you know how to harness it and use it skillfully, and you know how much use fire or electricity brings to us. So that's why the Buddha said in his first teaching, dukkha must be fully understood. So ask yourself, if I'm suffering, why am I suffering? So it's like we're creating a microscope into our hearts. In the same way that you have a microscope and you can zoom in and see tiny things very clearly. This is what this training does. So that's why the Buddha said, taught that dukkha, and knowing dukkha is the starting point. But if we just get lost in delighting all the time and wanting this, and then you give rise to a sense of self-importance, then as soon as something changes or even looks like it's going to change, then you feel there's a problem. Really there's no problem, but you feel fear and anxious because what you love is going to change. So contemplate anicca or impermanence, and then you'll be able to understand, to abandon self-importance, and you'll see the non-self nature of everything. You won't get lost or deluded, and there'll be true peace of mind. So coming back to the body, it all starts with looking after the body. If you're able to take good care of the body, then you feel comfortable. You have to. What people tend to do is to say feed up or grow or after, say, to nourish the body without actually looking after the body. Just like we use things but we don't clean them afterwards. So understand the basics, like with food, you have a digestive system. It begins with the mouth, into your stomach, you've got the intestines, the colon, and then finally it passes out at the end. We have to know how to take care of this whole process and understand about things like food. Fat is energy. We need it. But if we take too much, then it ends up building up and coating our internal organs. We're not comfortable and we get sick. So I'm using this dhamma in order to explain how we have to look after. Sorry, I'm giving this as an example because when practicing dhamma, the first step is to look after the very tool or the terrain, the area that you're going to use to practice that dhamma. And if you learn how to do that, this will be of benefit to yourself and benefit to others. In medical language, we call this basic health and hygiene. Compare the body to a car. How much more difficult the journey is if the car is really loaded down with heavy goods. So learn how to make yourself neither a burden to yourself or to others. And so the starting point is knowing the body, knowing foods. In ancient India, they had ways of describing or grouping food types. We call them things like grains, or fish, or meat, or vegetables. These days we use the modern technical languages, carbohydrates, protein, fats, vitamins, minerals, etc. But it's all about understanding what we're using to nourish our bodies or ourselves. Even things like bacteria. Now we understand we need bacteria. If you learn how to use bacteria, it's very important. You know, lots of certain products of yogurt, for example, we need it for digestion. In our Pali, the Buddha taught for monks the basic medicine we use is in Pali called buddhi mutti pesaja. This means a medicine made from, it's actually from pickled urine. But the point is it's some kind of pickling process which is medicinal. So right from the early days, the Buddha taught, and in our monastic teaching, about how to use every aspect of food, even bacteria or things which are fermented or pickled, as medicines. And so it's very important to have a good immune system, good digestion, everything is good. Even going to the toilet is easy. If people aren't healthy, the basics in life are just very difficult. So when your body is good, your mind will be good and you'll be happy as well. You'll be less stressed, less tense. If the body is imbalanced, and the mind is imbalanced, what happens? You take out that imbalance on the people around you. That's husbands fight with wives and family members quarrel. So all this begins with the basic of looking after the body. If you have the basic comfort, then the basic level of well-being gives rise to this true happiness. What we call heaven. Heaven is a happy heart. There's an old saying in Thai, Jai Sai, which means a clear mind is punya, is meritorious. A cloudy mind, or a turbulent mind, or turbulent heart, is evil, papa, or unwholesome. So the mind is important, and it starts with a healthy body. And all this is not beyond our capacity. We can really do this. But we have to learn how to begin by looking after the body. And if you know this, then this is the starting point to what we call being in Thai the Puru, the one who knows. We'll be able to develop ourselves more and more to this complete, all-round state of a fully developed human being. And nurturing a healthy body is a way of providing a foundation for this mental training or growing in knowledge. So all kinds of knowledge are necessary, but where does knowledge come from? How do we get it? The first way we get knowledge is primarily through meeting with other people, talking or learning, studying and exchanging ideas. And this is what we call sutta. Sutta means hearing, so you hear information from other people. then you also have to develop or cultivate your own knowledge through thinking in the right way. You could call this reflecting, wisely reflecting. So for example, the kind of thinking where you think, wherever there's darkness, there must be light somewhere, or wherever there's hot, there must be cold. You're using your logic and your analytical reason in order to grow in knowledge. And another kind of knowledge comes through developing a peaceful mind. And this peaceful mind, this still mind, is the very, very important basis for mental health, or for growing mental cultivation. And the beauty of mental health is that when you really have a good mind, you don't create enemies in life. In Thai we say arom sabai. Sabai means at ease or happy or well. It comes from the word sabaya, which means favorable conditions. And all of this lies within us if we nurture it enough, or we know how to create the suitable causes, just in the same way that we all know how to eat food in order to look after our bodies. So we have to give this mental training great importance. Do it a lot. Do it more and more often. And the more you do it, the more confident and steady you'll get. It's just like, it's one thing to build a car, but we have to actually know how to drive it and drive it properly, and then we can do that. So all of us here, we've seen lots of things in life. We've seen things out there, things which we consider to be of great value. The world gives great value. One example is diamonds and jewels. But these are just stones and rocks and minerals that have been found, and dug up, and then cut and polished. And then suddenly they become valuable. So do the same with our lives. If we know how to polish up our lives, then what we're doing is taking something which is a bit ordinary, or might even be harmful or not very productive, and make it productive. So today, this is a very nice opportunity. Myself and the monks have come here to meet with you all and exchange dhamma, and I'd like to give you anumodana. But you have to really learn how to look after yourselves, and I want to end by saying, may you all be healthy and happy and learn how to look after yourselves. But one more thing, I'd like to just share with you just a little tip. I look after myself very simply. One way is just by using the simple things around me. And one of the things I do is, in English it's called a liver flush. I just explain it so you get a simple idea of how you can, one way of looking after yourself, just a technique to share. You need 8 limes and about 800 cc's of water, and some what we call Epsom salts, and some olive oil. Very simple. So this is important. If you're not feeling very good, if you're feeling a bit kind of out of sorts or heavy, or you're not feeling in such a good mood, and you need to have a free day the next day, because liver flush involves perhaps some going to the toilet. But if you've got free time the next day, this is how you do it. In the evening, you take the 800 cc's of water, it's not quite a litre, and divide it into 4 parts, 200 cc's per part. And you take about a tablespoon, first you mix into that about a tablespoon of Epsom salts, stir it up, and then divide it into 4 parts. So you've got 4 parts. Have your last bit of food and drink at 4 p.m. Then at 6 p.m. you can drink your first part of this solution, water and Epsom salts. Then at 8 p.m. have the second part, the second 200 cc mix. That might be a bit strange because Epsom salts are the kind of medicine. Then at 10 p.m. you take your 8 limes and your 200 cc's of olive oil, and you cut the limes and you squeeze the limes, so you've got a little glass of lime juice, and mix it into the olive oil, stir it very, very well, and drink that in one go at 10 p.m. And then lie very, very still for 40 minutes. What's happening is it's mixing down, it's going through your stomach, into your liver, into your bile, and it's flushing out impurities, there's little pieces of fat, all kinds of stuff that's stuck in there, and then down into your intestines. Now, a man's intestine is 30 feet long. A woman's is 40 feet long. So there's all kinds of corners, there's all kinds of stuff that gets stuck in there over the years. And what we call this liver flush, just with olive oil and lime and Epsom salt and water does is it flushes it through the system. So you'll see all kinds of strange things in the toilet. It's all coming out from the body. It's purifying the body of what we have in there. So then you can sleep. At 6 a.m. the next day, you have your third portion of these 4 portions of water and Epsom salt mix. At 8 a.m. you have the last one, and then at 10 a.m. you can eat again. And then you may well have bowel movements throughout the day. It depends from person to person. But once you do that, it's a very, very good way. You just feel very, very good, very, very rejuvenated and fresh. It's like a real way of, sometimes it's called detox as well. So anyway, I'm just sharing a little tip with you today, one way, very simple, using just the natural stuff around you, the way we look after the body. Another little thing which we do, and this is something which takes time, but just by way of sharing this with you, by learning how to use simple ways, natural ways of looking after ourselves, is to do what's actually called making a probiotic fermented solution or an organic composted down solution. It needs water and waste food, and you mix it in with molasses, and then I think the enzymes grow inside it, and then you seal it for 6 months, and then after 6 months you'll see it's a very, very sweet smelling liquid with a bit of like foam on top, and then the food's all inside, but it's not rotten or putrid. It's actually very, very sweet smelling because of, I'm not sure the technicalities, but it's enzymes and bacteria and organisms. And then you strain out this solution, and then you can keep it in a bottle, and then every day you can mix a little capful in with about a half litre or 800 cc, a half litre bottle of water, and just drink that in the evening. And then again you get the enzymes, and it's called a probiotic solution. And so these are very, very simple ways, sharing that with you, of how we can just look after our bodies, and it's using natural things which is in line with the Dhamma. So anyway, if you're interested in these things, there's lots of information out there. So I just want to end then by saying Anumodana, real share of my joy and appreciation for being keen to seek a way out of dukkha. May you all develop yourselves and lead lives in a way where you find true happiness, and ultimately ending by just saying may you all be very, very well.